Kim, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Anthony.
Yeah,
glad to be
pleasure.
here.
Thank you so much. I've been excited about having this opportunity to sit down with you. And I know we have a short window, and I'd love to get into it right away. So first off, I always like to know people's background a little bit. I know, we were talking previously, you told me you're originally from Arizona, and just curious what initially brought you out to the great city of Los Angeles, and what ended up keeping you here?
Sure. Yeah, I moved here in 1984. I had grown up in Arizona, went to middle school, high school, and went to college at Arizona State University, and then worked. Yeah, go Devils! And then I worked in commercial banking in the Phoenix area for a few years, and just wasn't really, feeling like commercial banking was my future. But I enjoyed the experience, but applied to law schools and business schools. Just think I needed to make a change of some type, and using that as a catalyst, I ended up going to business school instead of law school. And I'd always wanted to go to a bigger city. In those days, Phoenix was this tiny little town. It was sort of, visited by folks from Minnesota, in the winter to kind of get out of the freezing cold. And it was bloody hot in the summer. Everybody left town. It was just an unusual place. But it's changed so much in, the last 35 years. It's incredible. But regardless, the big city, to those of us who grew up in the Phoenix area, I grew up in Tempe, was Los Angeles. And I had a lot of friends who had lived there. I had, relatives from the area. And, I think what attracted me was it's this place of amazing opportunity. It's a incredibly diverse culture. It's a melting pot, to be sure. Yeah. And then it also has the arts. And I think while Phoenix may have a little bit more of that today, 35 years ago, not so much. So being attracted to all those things, I thought this would be the place to move. This is where opportunity would be. And, when I got the real estate bug and wanted to get into the real estate development business, I couldn't think of a better place to do that than Los Angeles. So I looked, all over the place for opportunities and scenarios in Los Angeles when I was graduating from business school. In the LA area, found 2 or 3 that were interesting, picked one and just moved on it. And I've been here ever since. It's amazing. I've been here this long. And why I stayed, it's because it has opportunity, it has diversity, and it has the arts. I love the eclectic nature of the population. I love the fact that, Southern California is such a welcoming place to newcomers. Some locations aren't so much like that. And I think what's cool about this town is that anybody new can come in and do well and do great and do good. And I think that's one of the neatest things about Southern California. I love the arts. I love how that intersperses these unique people into our community. And so that's the same reason I came is the same reason I stayed.
Same reason you stayed. Yeah. Well, and it still keeps attracting people. People still come here for all kinds of opportunities. I think they will continue for a lot of those reasons that you had mentioned. So I'm a downtown guy primarily, and I have to sort of ask you off the top about the acquisition of the Greyhound bus depot. And I was wondering if because that's super, super interesting to me. And so I was wondering if you could describe the process on how this came about and really how it fits into your investment strategy.
Sure. Well, we now affectionately refer to it as the Alameda Crossing. Trying to rebrand this location there on Alameda. It's an incredible spot. It's really in the industrial district of downtown. So it's, as close to the arts district as you can get, but still being in the section of town that has dock high doors, which is what we're mostly known for, is product that has distribution elements to it. So how we look at a lot of deals. We have a couple of buildings down the street from this on Bay Street. We are always looking at opportunity downtown, because what we like as a business is this infill last touch kind of location, where that last point of delivery to the doorstep, to the business, et cetera, to the consumer. And that's moved increasingly closer in over the years. And it's definitely a meaningful part of our business model. So we look at all kinds of transportation logistics properties, throughout the globe. We're very, very active in Seattle in this regard. In London, we have a lot of properties. In the Bronx, we have multiple locations like this. What we're trying to do is listen to what our customers are evolving into as e-commerce becomes more prevalent. Is what do our customers need, and where do they want to be, and how do they look at the distribution rings around an individual location? So if you were to look at the former Greyhound bus station as an example, you draw a ring of what can you reach from that location. Now, this is now outbound, not inbound. What can you reach from that location within a 30-minute drive? You could probably get, depending on the time of day, all the way to Beverly Thrills, or all the way up into Pasadena, La Cañada, Burbank, south into the center part of the city. That universe of touch that you can get to within that 30-minute drive is magnificent from this location. So that's what attracted us to the property. Now, it was clearly being marketed as a conversion to, a Hudson Yards equivalent, kind of the typical arts district phenomena, which isn't really what we do. I mean, we've pursued that type of work before, but purely as a land developer, working on, if you would, the horizontal improvements necessary to get something zoned, entitled to do that, and then either sell it off or ground lease it or what have you. In this case, we have pretty good bones in some older buildings that have dock high inside that bus terminal that we think can be repurposed, reconfigured ever so slightly, and still be a good probable interim use. And maybe interim here in downtown LA might be 3 to 10 years before it turns into something else. So we are not sure what that something else is. We're sort of talking to the city a lot about that and how that might manifest. We recently ran a very interesting experiment. We had our property reviewed by the Silver Shovel contest between USC and UCLA's real estate teams, evaluating this property and giving us their advice on what we ought to do with this property we just bought. It was a really fun experience to see these two camps take totally different approaches to what the future of this site might look like. But interestingly, what they had in common was interim income will allow you time to explore, experiment, and find that future use in a way that will ultimately optimize value. And that's a little bit of how we're looking at it as well, is trying to get an interim use, try to get, if you would, the land covered, if you want to call covered land play in a bunch of buildings. It's very similar to that strategy. And we hung around the hoop on this property for quite some time. It was offered for, over a year and a half, I think, before I think the seller's price expectations came back down to where we were able to suddenly be viable. That's the honest truth. Okay. So, and our team, who works the downtown market, was just aggressive in staying close, and ultimately got the call and said, "Hey, we got to do this deal by year end. Can you still do that?" So, we certainly have the capital to do deals quick and big deals quick. So it fell nicely into our lap, and we were able to execute on it. And now's the hard part.
Do you guys tend to compete on deals, or are most of the things you acquire off-market deals?
We do both. I would say, while our cost of capital is extremely low, we are a unleveraged buyer. So we use very little debt. I think our loan to value right now might be in the teens. So we're very conservative in that regard. So we look at things on a cash basis principally. If we're competing with others who use leverage, sometimes they'll pay a little more, especially in the current environment where, you know, debt is fairly friendly to the competitive buying scenarios we're facing.
Right.
So, but we get a lot of off-market submittals that are maybe not, you know, fully qualified, but they're leads. We look at them as leads. We protect our brokers. We work with all the brokers in the community to hear them out, understand the scenario. Sometimes we make off-market offers with, you know, sort of random submittals. We usually check among our team to make sure we're not breaching any confidences or prior commitments. And I think we do a decent job of that. So that benefits us in that we're listening carefully. We're trying to be responsive, and we try to act quick if we have an opportunity. So that's the off-market stuff. The on-market, the broadly marketed stuff, you know, I think what we found, certainly in the last few weeks, it's been very difficult to win the beauty contest. You know, the highest price wins. But occasionally, and this is a good point, Anthony, is that we may not be the highest price, but what we have working for us is a strong execution team. We're reliable. We don't option in properties. We enter into agreements to buy properties. So we're not out there shopping for money to determine whether or not we can close based on what we've tied up. We don't play that way. So I think that we try to bring that reputation to, you know, the market every day, is that, you know, we're reliable. You can count on us. If you need it closed by a date, we'll make it happen.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So you mentioned your downtown team or your SoCal team a couple of times. So can you describe how that breaks out for you?
Yeah, in fact, there's been a little bit of a change recently, so I'm happy to describe it. So there's a gentleman by the name of Darren Kenny who's been working in Southern California for quite some time. He is our new capital deployment head for California. And he's got a staff of people that work underneath him. He's based in San Francisco, you know, went to college here in SoCal. He's very familiar with the turf, and we've been working on a lot of value add deals with him. He just recently positioned an individual, Brendan Coulter, who is our new Senior Vice President of Capital Deployment in Southern California. And Brendan has a great background in you know, industrial as well as retail, which he understands the entitlement sequence, and super savvy guy. You know, and I think he's going to be a great leader for our Southern California business going forward. But on his staff, he's got Laurel Casey, who is you know, UCLA MBA, just a really talented individual. Guy named Blake Kelly, who's got a construction and entitlement background that support that. And a young fellow we just brought on the team, Aaron Velasco, just a fantastic young analyst. So we've got this nice team of 4 or 5 people. Oh, I forgot. We've got this gentleman, Tunde Ogunwole, who's a construction and entitlement guy with a vast experience in Southern California. So when you got construction entitlements, entitlement individual, you got a strong analyst, you got a junior market officer and a senior market officer. It's a nice team. I will just tell you, having worked in Southern California for many years now, this is a formidable team to put on the court. And I think we're going to see a lot of neat things come of that group over the next couple of years. Oh,
okay, cool. Thank you for sharing that. I'm curious. I know we want to focus. Well, I love to focus, you know, on the SoCal. I'm really a SoCal guy, and most of my business is here. A lot of our listeners are here. But I did have a question. I mean, you are the president of the U.S. Western region. You oversee hundreds of millions of square feet of industrial, and you work for one of the biggest industrial global real estate companies in the world. You guys have positions all over, so many different continents. And I'm curious, from a management standpoint, how much time do you divide up between, looking at deals, working with clients, and dealing with management issues or people issues? How is that all cut up for you?
Well, that's a tough question. I've been looking at that very closely recently, and that got some new people in roles right now that are super competent individuals, and I've been trying to, if you would, act as a coach, not a player coach. It's tempting to be player coach. I'm trying to just be coach. So that means sitting on the bench and, biting the towel and, hoping they make the shots. And
Arcanian style.
But I have a great team. And I think, to that point, I think what I try to do is work with people and grow young talent to the best of my ability to pass along, my 36 years of experience. And but let them do the work. Let them experiment and fail and course correct as necessary, because I think that's how you develop your best people. And I've had a decent track record of doing that over the last few years. So I do a lot of that work. So that's sort of developmental time, if I could put it in those terms.
Okay.
But you're right about the scale. We're over 200 million square feet. We have properties, from Denver West, Salt Lake West, I guess, best said. And we've got market officers in each of those locations. So my job is to sort of check in on how that all is flowing, how the data is flowing into our machinery. We collect a lot of data here and understand what that data means in terms of trends. Our supply demand characteristics favorable on a landlord basis. Right now, the Inland Empire, for example, is extremely favorable environment with a limited amount of supply and a huge amount of demand that breeds rent growth. And what we are always examining is how are we doing relative to the supply demand circumstance. So that's spread across a bunch of markets, requires you to do market research, a little reading, a lot of conversations with people and understanding what's going on. So again, call that, that's sort of the internal management piece. But then, I do have 225 employees. So HR does take up a fair amount of my time in terms of getting the people what they need, overcoming their obstacles, helping them get budgets to do what they need done, recruiting and evaluating how we're doing, with new folks as well as folks who've been here a while. So HR takes up a fair amount of time. And, one of the big HR items we work on, and I'm particularly involved with, is diversity. It's an important characteristic of the culture that I'm trying to portray and convey into the marketplace, is that we are a diverse and inclusive shop. So that means we're listening, that means we're responding to what we hear, but we're also trying to modify the gender distribution of our business, of our industry. And I think by being such a big player, we actually can make a dent in it. It's a long game, and I've got a lot of great partners helping me do this, but we're trying to get more and more women in our workplace, in commercial real estate in general. And it's about making this a friendly, easy place to do that. And so, we'll be working on this for the next century, but it's important to stay at it. And I guess, as a guy who has, 2 boys and 2 girls, it seems so logical to have the mix that is similar to, what life is all about. And I guess commercial real estate it's been a, old boys game for many, many years. I was part of that old paradigm. And I'm trying to do my part to kind of evolve. So we're working on that hard.
Okay, got it. Thank you. That definitely answers that question. You said, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to try to quote you here. And feel free to check this. you said that you guys like to look for relative predictability in real estate cycles when you are making acquisitions, for example. So if that's true, where do you see this cycle right now? And how does this time period play out to that quote?
Well, I think that quote maybe is, did I really say that? No, what I was going to say is e-commerce has changed everything, right? It's just been this, disruptive influence on so many parts of commercial real estate. But it's been a tailwind for logistics real estate. That business that Prologis is in, that business that, I've been doing for 30 some years, it's just benefiting greatly from the evolution and take up of e-commerce. The more and more sales, retail sales are becoming through the internet, through online, through multi-channel approaches to selling and buying. So we're really focused here on what does that uptick look like? Is it sustainable? Or is this just a blip? There's a camp right now that's arguing, the second half of 2021 is going to be terrible because all this disposable income, instead of being online, instead of being, buying stuff that's delivered to the house, we're going to go out and spend that money on resorts and restaurants and other things that we've not been able to do, during COVID. And I think there's some truth to that. There's some truth to that. There might be a slight redistribution of that disposable income to things that we've all foregone for the last 18 months. Right. So I acknowledge that. But I also think this speed of adoption of e-commerce is going to continue and is going to be there for a long time. It might not have the 20% growth year over year that it had this past year, but it might have 10% growth. It's still way out in front of where it was 5 years ago, if you think about that. So that has a huge impact on this last mile distribution, on distribution in general in the kind of major population centers, and people having to reconfigure their supply chain to adapt to that. So that plays right into Prologis's hands. That's what we do. And our customers are giving us a lot of feedback of what they want to do next. And that's sort of our entire ethos, is listening carefully to what our customers are telling us, go where they want to be, help them execute what they want to accomplish from a facility standpoint, from a logistics real estate standpoint. Because our approach to that is, when our customers make money, we make money. We need to do everything in our power to give them enough information and opportunity to make the biggest margins that they can possibly make, through controlling operating expenses, to facilitating procurement if they need that kind of help, or at worst, just being a trusted advisor on the business of the real estate component of what they do. That's handled. They can rely on it. And I think that's going to propel us very effectively, as an institution going forward into the future.
So what kind of things have you, industrial real estate has changed obviously a lot in, 20, 30, 40 years, but what kind of things are you hearing from your customers or clients today that you didn't hear 20 years ago, that things that they want in buildings today?
Well, certainly clear height is, a big topic. We've gone from, 10 years ago, we were doing 32-foot clear buildings. 5 years ago, we were doing 36-foot clear buildings. We're routinely doing 40-foot clear buildings at this point. We have our first 50-foot clear spec building under construction now in Northern California.
What happens, Kim, hold that thought, because I've never seen a 50-foot clear building. Certainly not going to have any here in downtown.
It's really tall. It's really tall.
So what happens on the construction? Is that still going to be like concrete tilt up, or is it going to be a different kind of design?
No, you can go pretty tall with tilt up. You have to put a lot more steel in the wall panels, and but they're sort of supporting the same weight that they would otherwise have supported, except for the incremental clear height. So it's just buttressing the columns a little bit, buttressing the wall panels a bit. The roofs are sort of the same, where they're the same amount of money. Seismic characteristics, when you go higher, you have to put a little bit more steel, and consider that as part of your structural design to go that additional height. But why people are interested in this is they're looking for cubic area to use in a space. If you remember back in the day when we got in the business, it was 24-foot clear, right? That was sort of that was 10 years of state of the art at 24-foot clear. And as fire protection technology improved, as lift equipment technology improved, the ability to pick at higher heights, the ability to improve racking and seismic conditions so that racks don't tip over, and have the ability to experience small movements in the earth. Clear heights kept creeping up. Cost of real estate was increasing dramatically in that window of time. So as customers figured out, hey, if I go to 30-foot clear or 32-foot clear or 36-foot clear, I can add 2 or 3 more pallet positions per rack that I'm still paying the same amount on a square footage basis. My boss, Hamid Moghadam, who's our chairman of the board and CEO, he says, when are we going to start pricing all this stuff based on cubic area or pallet positions? Can we price it on pallet positions? Because these tall buildings have beneficial value to the customer to be able to put more product in a space that they're paying the same amount on a per foot basis. So that's really why I think people are moving to different clear heights. It allows them to put more product in the same building, in the same footprint.
So that's super interesting. And that leads me to a couple of things. So one, the commercial real estate market generally has been kind of slow with technology. And we've been kind of behind the 8 ball to adapting to things. Although in the last few years, we've seen a tremendous amount of things happening, a lot of new companies popping up. So if clear heights are going up, these forklifts, I mean, in the old days, couldn't go up 40, 50 feet. So one thing, forklifts have to be improved. And what about robotics now, being able to pull merchandise off the racks? And then 3, what other type of technologies are either you're excited about or your customers are talking about that we will see in industrial warehouses?
Well, it's interesting. It's a great question. And it's something that we're spending a lot of time trying to figure that out right now. We've done a lot of experimentation. We've created a space, we call it Prologist Labs. It's up in San Leandro, and where we experiment with this technology. We have a group that we've created internally at Prologis called Prologis Ventures. It's a venture capital format entity that's going out and exploring all these disruptive technologies for our industry, and then trying to assess which ones might have viability or applicability to our customer base. And then we experiment with them, put them in our labs, see how they work. Do they make sense? Is it truly applicable? Is it scalable? Is it affordable? There are a lot of dimensions to these new technologies that impede their success, but others that seem very, very likely to work out. So we've been investing not only in those companies, but investing in some experimentation and encouraging our customers to work with us to help figure this out. Because our view is, let's figure this out together. Again, it goes back to my earlier theme of trying to help our customers be more profitable, be more efficient. Sometimes being more efficient creates that profit. So we've experimented with, robotics. Well, we got this concept of a smart building we're currently working on that's very interesting. One of the big pain points of any spec space is to get your customer, your tenant, hooked up to the internet quickly. How long does that take? Sometimes it takes 30 days. They sign a lease and they want to have that turned on. They want to plug it in, have their system working, and their warehouse management system is operable day one. if you have to wait 2 weeks to get hooked up on the internet and have a, distribution of, wireless throughout your warehouse, it's just downtime. So we've been working on ways to try to incorporate that into our spec suite, our make ready build out, so that people can plug and play right away. Now, it means you have to make some decisions on generic product and systems and distribution of that. But if we get that right, we're going to save people a lot of time at the beginning of their ramp up. So that's a simple item we're working on. Simple is maybe a little aggressively stated. It is complicated to get it right. We're trying this in multiple locations throughout the U.S. and trying to learn from what we experience there. But the other thing we're working on is sort of a auto picking robot concept. There's a company called Locus that is very actively involved with several of our customers, and we've just recently incorporated their program into a series of trials as well, where it's like a robot that has trays that follows the workers. You put they're running throughout the warehouse. It's a very cool system. I encourage your listeners to just look up locus.com on the internet, and you can see a couple of videos where they demonstrate their product and how these robots facilitate the picking process. They're not replacing people, they're supplementing people and increasing the relative efficiency inside a warehouse and the wear and tear on the individual of reaching, grabbing all this stuff and moving around and walking aimlessly through a warehouse. These robots kind of work in tandem with the individual pickers in a way that gets a substantially higher degree of efficiency out of the individuals, and they're not as worn out because where they're focusing their picking activity. So that's just a couple of examples. And I'm excited about this because we're not one of the big pain points our customers talk about is labor availability. It's tough, and when our largest customers are saying, "Geez, I can't go here because there's just no labor." I want to build a 500,000 square foot building, but I don't know how I'm going to fill it with people. Now that happens in certain locations, and others not so much. But I think it's something that we've been trying to figure out solutions to that as well. And while it's not very tech oriented today, we have an online community workforce initiative that allows us to help train people for these entry-level jobs, as an example, in the e-commerce sector. That's been a pretty effective strategy. We've got a thing in Los Angeles we're doing with a company or an enterprise called EXP, where they go into the high schools with seniors in high school, and we've been facilitating with our customers internship programs to work in and around the port complex and all the different types of businesses that are down there, and get younger kids into the logistics arena a little bit earlier, exploring it as opposed to exploring fast food retail. No offense to our fast food friends, but an alternative. A lot of people don't know about what logistics is and how it all works, and especially young people. So we've tried to make a deliberate effort there to invest in these internships and help our customers host younger people in their shop to get an exposure to maybe to an industry they've never even thought about working in. So doing a lot of things in terms of trying to bring to bear then matching technology of where jobs are and where people are, and trying to merge that. A little bit of matchmaking in the needs and wants of not only the workers, but with our customers and what they need. And it's been an interesting strategy for us to explore that as well.
Yeah, I'm sure these schools are probably so grateful that you guys are doing something like that. I mean, anytime, I know I didn't really get internships in high school, and so I think that's great that you guys are doing that. Is that a program you guys are rolling out throughout the entire Western US, or is it just in certain markets?
We're doing it, and we're trying to do it throughout the West. We have a program in the San Joaquin Valley right now that's of this. We have one in Oakland. We have one in the early stages in Las Vegas. We have obviously the one in Southern California. That's probably one of our larger ones, but we're doing this across the platform. We have a huge operation going in Miami right now. We have another one in Chicago, similar configuration. And each one sort of tries to cater to the community in which we're doing business. I mentioned Miami and Chicago as an example. Our whole thesis is, we're long-term real estate holders. When we go into a community, we're there for a while. We don't just, lease it and sell it and see you later. That is not our game at all. Our game is we become a part of the community. We accumulate assets. We accumulate, community impact through our involvement. And we just feel it's like part of our responsibility as a corporate citizen of that community to do some good and try to help out. And whether that's, helping young students kind of consider different employment opportunities in the logistics world, or training that they can use and take wherever they, see fit. And then obviously we're always anxious to visit with communities to understand what they need. What are their hot buttons? How can we help? There are things that we can do. So we have a thing we do every year called Impact Day, where the entire company, over 2,000 employees, takes one day and devotes it to a community. And what do you need done? We've done everything from gardening to repairing elementary school facilities to putting up houses, for, Habitat for Humanity. We've done a lot of these types of gestures. It's just part of what we're trying to be as a company, is a good community citizen everywhere we do business.
That's fantastic. I love that. I think that's a great place to kind of wind down. I want to be respectful of your time, Kim. And before we completely close out, I like to ask all my guests two final LA-based questions. And this is really an LA-focused podcast. So the first question is, tell us about your favorite either place to visit or thing to do in the greater LA area.
Wow, there's a long list. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm a big fan of Griffith Park. So one of my favorite things in the world to do is ride a horse up and down that hill. Get all dusty, dirty. I love it right after a big rain, where you can get up there on Mount Hollywood, which is that, it's the Pride Rock of Southern California. And it looks down over Griffith Observatory and into the LA basin. That is a vista that is just unbeatable. But at a personal level, what I really like to do is I like to hang out at the Guitar Center and just play the guitars that are in there. And that's really what I do. I thought the first thing might sound a little better, but truth be told, I love going to the Guitar Center. We have some of the most amazing guitar shops in the world in Southern California. So
is Guitar Center going to stay open?
I hope so. I'm praying for them. I mean, I do a little, prayer every night, and I do my best to buy every piece of inventory that they offer. So I'm definitely contributing as best I can.
What's your guitar choice these days?
Well, geez, I have quite a few, and I recently bought a Fender Telecaster, an old school Telecaster, which is kind of a country western guitar with a little bit of twang to it. And I have not yet modified it, but it's new enough that I probably play it every day. Whereas my poor Gibson SG might only get, every other day at this point. And my poor Rickenbacker sits there, just hoping I pick it up at some point. So I got a bunch of guitars, so I sort of play different types of music as a result. And, playing jazz is one guitar, playing country rock, which I love, is that Telecaster right now. So I'm having a good time with it.
How many years have you been doing this your whole life, since you were a kid?
Probably since I was 10 years old, so quite a few years. Yes, sir. Yeah. And I played in a lot of different types of bands, from jazz to rock to kind of, funk. I had a nice funk era. You remember those days. We all like funk at one point, and I still love playing that. And so yeah, I have a lot of different types of music I'm a fan of. So hence, I got a lot of different instruments.
That's one of my regrets. I had a guitar. I picked up a guitar around 11 years old, and played it for a few years, and I put it down, didn't pick it up, tried it again, and I wish I had stuck it out at that age, because it's so frustrating, you know, when you first pick up an instrument, learning an instrument, and I didn't have the discipline as I do now, as I did when I was 11 years old. I was so into the sports world back then, but I admire that you have that hobby as well. So Kim, final question to the listeners: if we could ask the people in Los Angeles to do one thing to maybe make LA a better place for everybody, what would you like to ask people to do?
Drive less. Walk a little bit more. Maybe bike. Maybe find an alternative way to get to and fro. That's what I would recommend. I think if we, you know, LA's a car culture. It has been for 50, 60 years. Yeah. And everybody's got one car too many, I think. So to the extent that we can get people to drive a little.
Yeah.
I can remember, I don't know if you recall this moment in time when the '84 Olympics were here in Los Angeles. And the community city council, the mayor's saying, can we just kind of not clog up the roads for like a couple of weeks during the Olympics, and everybody sort of, you know, keep that in mind. And people did. And we didn't drive as much in that window of time. It was amazing what that did. And the air cleaned up instantly. You know, it was just like a unique thing to see people out biking, and all these different bike routes came out of that whole thing that were, a fun byproduct of that. So I love that idea. And fewer cars is good for everybody. And, it's healthier. And I think it knocks down that congestion, which, can be infuriating. So if you got to drive, you got to drive. But anyway.
All right. Well, you heard it there, everybody. Walk more and take the bike. You're the first person that said that, and I really like that answer. So Kim, anything else that you'd like to say about Prologis or yourself before we close out? Because I want to be respectful of your time. Any final thoughts?
No, I think we covered it. You know what? But I would like to thank you, Anthony, for hosting this and give me a chance to talk with you and talk with your listeners a little bit about what we're all about. You know, we've got a lot of changes in Southern California that I outlined, and I just appreciate you including us in that, communication to your listeners, because we like to tell people a little bit about us who don't know enough about us. And so thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Great. You're very welcome. Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun, and maybe you can do a part 2 next year or something, or a follow-up once you guys have done some more on the Greyhound. I'd love to hear about that. Thanks so much, Kim. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right.